My name is Walker Mitchell. I'm 87 years old. In 50 years of journalism, I interviewed men on death row, billionaires on their deathbeds, generals who'd sent thousands of soldiers to die and slept fine afterward. I've sat in rooms where people said the most honest things a human being can say because they had nothing left to lose. But the most honest thing anyone ever said to me was said quietly at a kitchen table by my wife. No cameras, no recorder, just the two of us and the sound of a clock on the wall. She said 7 words, and those 7 words did what 40 years of journalism couldn't do. They made me see myself clearly. I've been trying to figure out how to say this for a long time, whether to say it at all. But I'm 87. My knees ache. My hands shake a little in the morning, and I've stopped having the luxury of putting off the hard things. So sit with me for a few minutes, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just my story, it's yours too. I'd bet everything I have on that. Let me tell you who I was in 1991. I was 52 years old. I had a Pulitzer on a shelf somewhere. I say somewhere because I'd packed it in a moving box in 1985 and genuinely wasn't sure which closet it ended up in. I had a syndicated column running in 43 newspapers. I had sources in the Pentagon, in 3 state capitals, in the Vatican. I'm not exaggerating on that last one. I had a contact in Rome who'd been feeding me information for 11 years. I thought I was important. No, that's not quite right. I didn't think about it at all. I just moved. From story to story, city to city, like a shark that believes it's being productive because it never stops swimming. I was on the road 300 days a year, sometimes more. I missed Christmas 4 years in a row, 1983 through 1986, not because of emergencies, because I had convinced myself that what I was chasing was always more important than what I was leaving behind. My wife's name was Carol, is Carol. She's still alive. She's in a good facility now. Her memory has been going for a few years. Some days she knows me. Some days she looks at me like I'm a stranger who wandered in off the street. I visit every Thursday. I bring her flowers, yellow ones. She always liked yellow. On the days she doesn't know me, I sit with her anyway. I hold her hand and talk about nothing. The weather, what I had for breakfast, small things. It's the most time I've given her in 40 years of marriage, and she can't remember any of it. That's the kind of justice the universe hands out. Clean, merciless, educational if you survive it. Carol was a high school English teacher when I met her, 1965. I was a 26-year-old reporter for a regional paper in Ohio. She was 24, and she had brown eyes and a laugh that could fill a room, and she used to correct my grammar in love letters, which I found infuriating at the time and would give anything to experience again. We got married in June of 1967. Small ceremony. Her parents, my parents, a handful of friends. I was already restless by the reception. There was a story I'd been trying to crack for 3 weeks, and my mind kept drifting back to it during the vows. I tell you that not to make myself sound like a monster. I tell you that because I think you recognize it. That pull, that thing in you that is always leaning toward the next thing, the next meeting, the next project, the next goal, the next level. It feels like ambition. It feels like drive. It feels like you're building something. But from where I'm sitting now, at 87 years old, I can tell you what it actually is. It's fear dressed up in a nice suit. Carol never pushed me. She never gave me ultimatums. She never stood in the doorway with her arms crossed and made me choose. That's what I told myself made her different. That's what I told myself made us strong. She was just patient, I said. She understood the demands of the work, I said. She was proud of what I did, I said. And all of those things were probably true. What I didn't understand, what I refused to look at, was what her patience was actually costing her. October 1991. I came home from 6 weeks in Eastern Europe. The Soviet Union was coming apart at the seams. I'd been following the story across 4 countries. I was exhausted, wired, and already thinking about my next trip. It was late, past 11. I let myself in with my key. The house was mostly dark except for the kitchen light. Carol was sitting at the kitchen table, reading. She had a cup of tea that had gone cold. She was wearing the blue cardigan she'd had for years, the one with a small tear on the left elbow that she never got around to mending. She looked up when I came in. She smiled. Not a big smile, a quiet one, the kind that has some history behind it. I dropped my bag, sat down across from her, and I said, because I meant it, I genuinely meant it, I said, "God, Carol, I missed you." She looked at me for a moment, that long, steady look she had, like she was deciding something, and then she said it. "Walker, I stopped waiting for you a long time ago." She said it quietly, gently even, without anger, without accusation. She said it the way you say something that has simply become true. The way you'd say, "It's raining," or "The tea's gone cold." She went back to her book, and I sat there at that table for a long time, not knowing what to say, because there was nothing to say. She wasn't attacking me. She wasn't asking for anything. She was just telling me the truth about where we actually were. I'd been gone so long, so often, so completely, that she had built a full life in the spaces I'd left empty. Friends I'd never met, routines I didn't know about, a book club on Wednesday evenings, a garden in the backyard that she'd been tending for 3 years. 3 years. There was a garden in my own backyard that I had never once walked through. I didn't blow up the marriage. We didn't divorce. We stayed together, and in many ways, the years after that night were better than the years before. But that's not the point. The point is what she said. The point is what it meant. She had stopped waiting, not because she stopped loving me, but because waiting for someone who never arrives, that's not love. That's punishment. And she had quietly, without drama, without ultimatums, decided she deserved better than to spend her life waiting on a man who was always somewhere else. I've set my pen down exactly once in 50 years of interviews. The night a death row inmate said something that broke something open in me. That's a story for another day. But the only time in my life I felt something crack in my actual chest, not metaphorically, actually physically crack, was sitting at that kitchen table in 1991, looking at the woman I loved, who had stopped waiting for me, and understanding fully, for the first time, what I had done. Now I want to talk to you, not about me anymore, about you. You have a person in your life. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a child, old enough now to have learned not to expect you. And that person has probably stopped waiting for you too. They just haven't said it yet. Or maybe they have, and you are too busy to hear it properly. I've spent 50 years interviewing human beings in their most honest moments, and the pattern I've seen, over and over, without exception, is this. The thing people regret is almost never the risk they took, the story they chased, the business they built. It's the person they were standing next to while they were doing all of it, the person they looked right through. You think presence means being in the same room. You come home, you sit on the couch, you're physically there, so you've done your job, you've shown up. But your phone is in your hand. Your mind is on tomorrow's meeting. You're nodding at what they're saying, but you couldn't repeat it back if your life depended on it. That's not presence. That's haunting. You're a ghost in your own house. I want to tell you something about ambition, because I know how it feels from the inside. Ambition feels noble. It feels like love, almost. Like you're doing all of this for them, for the family, for the future, for something larger than yourself. That's the story you tell yourself. And it's one of the most comfortable lies a human being can live inside. The truth is simpler and harder. The truth is that work is easier than intimacy. A boardroom is easier than a kitchen table. A deadline is easier than a difficult conversation. Being impressive to strangers is easier than being truly known by someone who's seen you at your worst. So you choose work, again and again and again, and you call it ambition. And nobody argues with you, because ambition sounds admirable. But here's what ambition costs, and I need you to hear this clearly. The people who love you have a finite amount of waiting in them. That's not a weakness. That's what makes them human. And every time you choose the other thing, the meeting, the trip, the phone, the project, you make a small withdrawal from an account you probably don't realize has a limit. Carol didn't tell me the account was empty in 1991. She told me she'd stopped adding to it. By then, I'd been making withdrawals for 24 years. Some of you are going to watch this and think, good, I needed to hear that, but I'll get around to it. When the project is done, when the kids are older, when things calm down a little. I need you to understand something. Things do not calm down. The project is never done. There is always another one. And the people you love are making quiet decisions about you while you wait for the right moment. They are learning who you actually are, not who you say you are, not who you intend to be, who you actually are, revealed by where you put your time, day after day, year after year. My son Daniel is 61 years old. He lives in Portland. We talk on the phone every Sunday. We're close now, genuinely close, better than we've ever been. But sometimes, in the middle of a conversation, I catch something in his voice, a small flatness, a half-second of hesitation before he answers. And I know what it is. It's the scar tissue from 30 years of learning not to need me too much. You can repair a relationship. I'm living proof of that. But the scar tissue stays, and you put it there, and you have to live with knowing that. I want to end with something that isn't despair, because this isn't a story about what's lost. It's a story about what's still there. After that night in the kitchen, I didn't transform overnight. I want to be honest about that. I didn't have some dramatic awakening and become a different man by morning. It took years. It took stumbling. It took Carol, patiently, teaching me how to be present, how to listen without already formulating my response, how to sit in a room with someone I loved and actually be in the room. It's harder than it sounds. For people like me, like you, it is genuinely, physically difficult to stop moving, to stop producing, to just be somewhere without turning it into something. Carol used to say I sat in the garden like I was waiting to be interviewed by it. She wasn't wrong, but I learned. Slowly, imperfectly, embarrassingly late, I learned. I learned that the greatest act of courage I ever performed wasn't filing a story under a dictator's nose in 1979. It was sitting at a kitchen table in 1993 and saying to my wife, "Tell me about your day, and this time I'm going to listen like it matters, because it does." You are still here. That's the only thing I need you to take from all of this. You are watching this, which means the person you've been leaving is still in your life. The conversation you've been postponing hasn't been canceled. The door hasn't closed. But doors close, quietly and permanently, and you don't always hear them when they do. Put the phone down tonight. Not for an hour, not as a gesture. Put it down and look at the person across from you like they are the story. The most important story you will ever cover, because they are. God knows they are. I go to see Carol every Thursday. I bring yellow flowers. I hold her hand. I talk about small things. Some Thursdays, she looks at me and she smiles. That old smile, the real one, the one that fills a room. And for a moment, I can tell she knows exactly who I am. On those days, I talk less. I just sit there, present, finally. Don't wait until the memory goes.